Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to our Columbus Chamber of Commerce's first government spotlight of 2022. I'm Don DePiro, your president and CEO of our Columbus Chamber of Commerce. Really would like to thank all of you for getting up and joining us this morning. Also, a special thanks to our program sponsor, without whom we couldn't bring such wonderful events such as this to you. It is Spectrum. Now, I'd like to take a minute and introduce Tamara Howard, who is relatively new. Many of you know Tamara. She is the Manager of Government Affairs for Charter Communications. Tamara, take it away.
Thank you, Don. Good morning, everyone. And as Don said, I'm Tamara Howard. I am Manager of Government Affairs for Charter Communications. As a longtime partner and supporter of the Columbus Chamber, I am thrilled to be here to kick off this morning's program, a virtual panel discussion on how the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act will impact the business community. It will grow our economy, create good jobs, enhance our competitiveness, and make our economy more sustainable. Charter Communications is a leading connectivity company and cable operator providing superior broadband, voice, video, and mobile services under the brand name Spectrum. We employ more than 7,200 employees and provide service to more than 1,700 communities right here in Ohio. We understand the importance of partnerships like this and how the services we offer help to move the needle forward and each of the topics that will be covered today. I now have the pleasure of introducing Des Bryant, Vice President of Government Relations for the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. Des?
Thank you, Tamara. And thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. Infrastructure is a critical driver of increased investment, job creation, and overall economic growth. It is imperative that we support policies that will increase investment in key infrastructure projects and modernize how our future transportation system is funded and managed. We need a smart system of infrastructure that meets the needs of the 21st century, a system that encourages sustainable communities with easier access to our jobs, to our schools, and to our homes, a system that decreases travel time and increases mobility, a system that cuts congestion and increases productivity, and a system that creates jobs right now. Today's panel discussion will feature an elected official and subject matter experts that will share their insights and perspectives on how this historic legislation, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, will advance America's long-term prosperity, competitiveness by investing in urgently needed upgrades to our nation's infrastructure. To kick off the program, I would like to introduce our moderator, Thea Walsh-Ewing, Chief Regional Development Officer for MORPC. Thank you, Tamara, and thank you to our panelists for joining us today.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tamara, and thank you, Des. And good morning to the Chamber universe or webverse this morning. We are so glad to be with you and talking about the infrastructure bill. So, with the infrastructure bill, you think of traditional infrastructure, roads and bridges and even buses and the infrastructure for that. That's really important. But I've brought together a couple of different factions, both Des and I, someone that represents jobs, transit, and the legislature, in hopes that we can have a conversation about these broader issues and hopes that we can see that these infrastructure investments go much beyond the infrastructure that we're talking about every day. I am super excited in my role at the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commissioner. I'm a Chief Regional Development Officer, and I focus quite a bit on infrastructure and transportation projects, but also this branches out into economic development. So this investment in the infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion. It's kind of big, and we are super excited on what it will mean for the state of Ohio. For instance, in the state of Ohio, directly from the feds, we're going to see $9.8 billion just going in to infrastructure alone. And that doesn't mean that other things that are going to happen as a result of those investments, but $225 million in bridges, carbon reduction directly to the state, and $250 million, and even resilience money over $240 million. So quite a bit of key investments. And then along the way, beyond those formula funds that are come to the state of Ohio, there's going to be a number of opportunities to competitively compete across the nation for these dollars. So it's really important that we kind of get our ducks in order, get ready to go after this. And I'm excited to bring in our speakers today to talk a little bit more about the ways that the area they work in are going to benefit from these investments. So first up, I have Representative Dontavius Jarls on with us, as well as CEO from the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio, Lisa Pat McDaniel, and Josh Roth, who is the Economic Development Director with Central Ohio Transit Authority. So really excited to have all of you on this morning. And I'm going to kick it off with a first question for each of you. So let's talk about your role in Central Ohio. What is your role in the region, and how do you foresee the infrastructure bill funding have an impact on what you work on? And any of you, take it first.
Well, okay, I'll step into the silence. So for the Workforce Development Board, there's several impacts of this bill. We're very excited. Number one, the unprecedented investment in our public infrastructure, the investment in modernization of our energy infrastructure, as well as additional investment into clean energy. First, that all talks about jobs. That all points to a lot more jobs than we currently have. So that makes us very happy, but it also means a couple of things for us. It means that we've got to get the Central Ohio workforce trained with the right credentials and skills to be able to work on these projects so that this kind of infrastructure can happen. In addition, what really excites us is the money that's being invested into broadband. And that's because I've long thought, in my previous life as an economic development person, that broadband really needs to be considered as important of a utility to people as water, sewer, roads, etc. People can access training and credentials if they have access to a broadband. And so digital equity, digital access is really, really important to us and to the people that we serve, and to all of us, actually. As the economy quickly changes, we need to have the ability to get training and credentials on our time. And that happens when you have reliable internet access in your home. So I'll stop there because I know my colleagues here have other things to say.
Well, and good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here with all of you. This is State Representative Dontavius Jarls. When I think about the infrastructure bill, there's a number of things in addition to what Lisa had talked about that really hit home for me and the over 100,000 constituents in my district, which again, I represent North-South Linden, Airport, Easton, Milo, Grogan, Mifflin Township, and a little bit of Clinton Township. And so first and foremost, broadband. Broadband is one of the biggest issues that we faced in this General Assembly. Many of you probably know about that and have seen the work that we did there. It is important in light of this pandemic that we have done everything we can to connect families to reliable internet. I can tell you that there were constituents who were driving to McDonald's and Wendy's and with their kids and doing homework in the car because they did not have reliable internet, right? So to put a real perspective on the issue, our families were struggling, and this investment and infusion of dollars is going to make a difference for families. The other piece that I want to talk about, and there's a lot in this bill. I think the biggest thing that we talk about is our bridges and our roads, right? I don't know about you, but every time I drive down the street, I'm swerving around potholes, or I'm looking on the side and you see crumbling debris from the bridges. I mean, who knows what can happen, right? And so we want to make sure those infusion of dollars are supporting our roads and bridges in a real and intentional way, not just for the safety of people, but for the integrity of the structures that we have built across this state but particularly across this nation. One that hits home for me, and I'll stop here and I can let others speak, is the infusion of dollars to have clean drinking water for our Ohio residents. I share my story as someone who had lead poisoning growing up, and it impacted my life in a real and visceral way. And when I think about kids, the first indicator for lead poisoning should not be when a kid goes to a doctor. It should be, how do we check our systems to make sure that those families are receiving clean water, that those families are receiving, and we're mitigating lead and other harmful and hazardous materials from our water sources. And this funding, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at about $1.4 billion of an infusion to providing clean drinking water for Ohioans across the state. And so I'll stop there. There's so much in this bill that we can unpack. But most importantly, what I'm excited about is the implementation of those dollars and making sure, as Lisa talked about, making sure we have the workforce readiness, but also we're doing everything we can to scale the capacity to really meet people where they are. So thank you all for having me.
Good morning, everybody. Josh Roth, Economic Development Manager for Central Ohio Transit Authority. We serve an area with over 1.3 million residents. We currently operate 39 lines, 4 on-demand zones, about 2,700 service hours every day, 3,000 stops. And before the pandemic, we helped people take more than 19 million trips. Our mission is to move every life forward. And transportation and mobility access is really vital to our community. People who can get around and they enjoy more opportunities, everything from access to education, to employment and quality jobs, to healthcare. And if we don't have affordable, reliable access to transportation, we're not able to thrive or live up to our potential. And so as far as this infrastructure bill is concerned, I think it's going to have a tremendous impact on Central Ohio and CODA's future in particular. Some of these items I'm sure we'll dig into a little bit later, but this bill includes 89 billion with a B dollars for public transportation. That's about $39 billion more over the typical baseline. It's the largest investment in public transportation in our nation's history. And that's going to enable us not only to make safety and roadway improvements to our streets, to our bridges, but to our sidewalks, to our greenways, but it's going to allow, there's opportunities for us to go after fleet electrification and charging infrastructure so that we can help with the climate action plan that the city has. There's intelligent transportation opportunities in this bill that we can use to improve our operations and become more responsive to demand in real time. And then also there's something like $100 billion in new competitive grant funding across a slew of new programs that we look forward to partnering with Thea and her team at the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission and all of our municipal partners around Central Ohio to help improve that roadway, sidewalk, and greenway network. And then ultimately, if we do this right, this can enhance Central Ohio's economic competitiveness so that we can continue to provide good quality jobs to the residents.
You're on mute.
I was on mute. If you've got that on your bingo card this morning, you can mark that one out. Thanks to all of you for sharing a little bit of perspective of where you're coming at with the infrastructure bill. I know I've talked to a number of you about projects we're really excited about. And one I'm excited about at the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission is the potential of bringing Amtrak back to Central Ohio. This bill has that opportunity in it. There's over $40 billion there for passenger rail, and we have a real chance because Amtrak, this is very different than in the past because Amtrak wants to be here. We're the market, the largest and best growing market that they are currently not operating in. So this becomes more of a business decision for them than a decision of we want them here to draw business. So certainly this is the moment to strike while the iron is hot because the funding is there and there's certainly several businesses and partners lining up behind that opportunity. But, I could go on and on about passenger rail, but I know I've got some folks up here who are really excited about some projects I'm working on with them too. So what are some specific projects you guys are working on or your constituents are working on that you're just really looking forward to seeing happen specifically under the infrastructure bill? Go ahead.
Well, I share your excitement, Thea, as you know, about passenger rail, since as development director, however many years ago, I stood up there and said, yay, we're getting passenger rail. So I would love to see that before I die. So I'd love to see Amtrak here. But, I already talked about, we're really, really excited about the work we're doing here in Central Ohio around digital access equity. Because again, that's very, very important to us. The investments in public transportation and what we're looking at with LinkUs, for example, that allows all of our clients, our employees and potential employees to get to jobs, live where they want to live, wherever that is in the Central Ohio region, and be able to work wherever they want to work and get there in a reasonable amount of time, including getting to childcare, getting their groceries, whatever they need to do, and to do it easily is very exciting to us. So I know LinkUs is particularly exciting for us, and I think that some of this investment will help to develop that particular initiative.
Yeah, Lisa, thanks for that. The big thing that we're working on right now at CODA is this LinkUs initiative. And I would encourage everyone on the call to visit our website, linkus.com, to learn a little bit more. There's plans. And then there's even like steering committee reports and stuff like that you can find there to learn more about it. But what it really is it's a partnership between the City of Columbus, Franklin County, Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, and CODA. And we've been engaging the region for probably the last 7 to 10 years. The goal is really to shape a multimodal vision for the future so that we're prepared for 3 million residents in Central Ohio by 2050. And if we're really going to add 1 million people over the next 3 decades, we've got to do it in a way that enhances the quality of life in Central Ohio. And that really begins with our mobility infrastructure investments. Regional collaboration is going to be key here because we need to make sure that our policies, our incentives, our investments, both from the private and public sectors, that they're all aligned to encourage compact and connected development so that we can focus our growth as opposed to sprawling, and make sure that we're providing enhanced and equitable access to quality jobs, affordable housing, and other critical services. The big ticket item with the LinkUs initiative is high capacity bus rapid transit along a few corridors. We're well into the planning stages of the West Corridor along West Broad Street, the East Corridor along East Main Street, and the Northwest Corridor on Olentangy River Road. And what we're talking about is bus rapid transit. So we're talking about dedicated lane so the vehicles aren't mixing with the general traffic. We're talking about signal prioritization, and when it makes sense to have center lane boarding, level boarding, all to improve the travel times, reliability, and efficiency of the system. So picture a subway above ground. And by making these investments, we're hoping to focus this growth, but it'll be key moving forward that we make sure that all of our other policies are aligned. Efforts like Vision Zero, which aims to reduce pedestrian deaths, the city's climate action plan, the Greenways vision and the Rapid 5 initiative, even the regional housing strategy. It's going to be important to think comprehensively about this so that everybody can enjoy the benefits of the growth that we're going to see.
And I would just add and close, I feel like all of these issues are issues that of importance for me, where I sit as a state representative. When we think about what 2050 should look like and creating access to all forms of transportation in an accessible and real and intentional way is not just on the ground, on rails, also in the sky. And I know one of the big issues and one of the big investments is about $253 billion to our airports across the state. Again, as a representative that has the Columbus Airport here in the district, I'm really, really, really connected to the fact that that infusion of dollars is going to help expand our airport so that we can accommodate more people coming to Columbus, working in Columbus, living in Columbus, thriving here in this city. And also just the region in general, because it's not just Columbus, it's all of Franklin County and beyond. And so you have that happening. And then you have connectivity to people. One of the things I do want to say, and I think it's really important to highlight, is that in the infrastructure bill, there was a creation of the Minority Business Development Agency, MBDA, and they allocated around $110 million to connect Black and brown businesses to the infrastructure supports and resources, so that there's equity across the system in how we support businesses, particularly minority-owned small businesses, to make sure that they are getting a part of the pie, if I could, for lack of a better word. And so there's a lot of things in the bill that really has that touches issues that my constituents are concerned about. So as I mentioned about clean drinking water, rail, our bridge infrastructure, connecting businesses to the resources that are now available. I mean, all of these are important pieces that truly connect people to jobs, to their families, and quite frankly, to thrive in this state. And so I'm just excited about all of it.
Thank you, Representative, and thanks to all of you for answering that question. And I want to take a turn now to talk about the challenges. One of the things I'm foreseeing as the challenges for this upcoming bill is really the missed opportunities, right? And that is, if we let this opportunity, this once in a generation opportunity, get by us and we're not ready to jump on that train, to jump on that rail, to make that water better, we've got to be ready. And that's more than just standing up and saying, I want some money. And that's the business Morpsy's in. So we're in the business of helping our local governments get ready, be prepared, and write good grant proposals to pull that money back in here to the state of Ohio. And there's a couple things that I feel like are at the key to this. First off, I mentioned readiness. The second being equity in the system. Representative, you were right on. This bill has very focused and deliberate language around equitable projects and equitable distribution, but it will be upon us to make sure that those projects live up to the expectation that we write them to. And so we must work together, and we must continue to communicate with the businesses and the people living in our region in order to make that happen. And then last, very important, and it's I will say it's not as important as the first two, but it has to be there, and that is matching dollars. We've got to have them. So the local government to have to put some money into the project in order for the federal government to make the investment. The state has to be able to do that. So we have to have local resources to make this happen. And when those federal resources grow, that means the local ones have to grow with it in order to keep up. So it's really important that we keep our funding levels and keep things moving forward. Representative, what do you think are some of the challenges, or is there anything you want to say more on that?
Yeah, so what I will say is, and you touch on something that I think is important that we have to talk about. These dollars are for 5 years, right? 2050 is more than 5 years, right? And so what does it look like for our sustainability efforts to truly ensure that we're using the dollars in a way that we're getting to get the best bang for our buck, to make sure that we are being intentional and focused on creating thriving businesses, thriving programs, thriving grants to actually do the things we say we want to do. And then what is the scale? Like, how do we as Ohioans, as business owners, as electeds, work to ensure that we're not, this money is not just a one-time fix to, as I like to say, put paint on the wall, got new fresh paint, but there's but the wood is molded underneath it, right? Like, what are we doing to truly be intentional so that the impact of these dollars lasts a long time? And I think that that's the question that I think we all have to answer collectively. And I also think it's important to really frame what equity and inclusion really looks like when it comes to the allocation of these dollars, right? It's not just putting equity and inclusion in your grant proposal, it's actually putting in what exactly does it mean? How are you tracking, the data? How are you being intentional about supporting all people, regardless of how they show up, what they look like? It doesn't matter. And so it's for me, it's the real piece that we have to really focus on is the what we do, not what we say. And so I'm excited about the conversation and about where we go. And I'm happy to be a part of it to really help streamline and use my power as a state representative to say, okay, what else can we do? So that's what I just wanted to say, but I'm excited about where we are right now.
Amen to all of that. Because, the biggest challenge we see from my workforce seat here, we worked really hard to try to get additional training dollars into this bill, because there are going to be all these jobs and we don't have enough money to help those who are, let's pick a number, 300% of poverty and lower, who are already working in low wage jobs and need to get some skills to get some of these new jobs that'll be coming on board. And they can't step away from the work, the jobs they're doing now, because they got to pay bills, they got to pay rent, they have children they got to feed. And, something that we can do is help them to supplement them to be able to get that training and credential. And unfortunately, in the bill, none of that money, very little of that money made it through. And so while I'm very, very excited about all the investment, continued investment, I'm very, very frightened by the fact that this opportunity is going to be missed, as you said, Thea, because we're not going to be able to get those people who could really take advantage of this opportunity. And, a lot of those residents are in your district, Representative, get them that training so they can go into those jobs and quickly move to the middle class and up. We say move them to the middle class. Well, I don't just want to move them there. I want to keep moving them. So there's that. The other thing, Thea, that you said, having from my former economic development position at the state, the reason why we are where we are and have to have this trillions of dollar bill is because we have seen disinvestment over time constantly in our infrastructure, in our public transportation, et cetera, our water, our sewer, lead paint removal in our housing, all of these things. And, I understand that there is legislation to potentially get rid of or put a hold on the gas tax, I believe. That money goes to match these dollars. That money goes to invest in the infrastructure we have. And we can't just all say, hey, this bill is going to save us now, because 2050 is a long time, as you say, and we have to maintain that investment going forward. And we can't always rely on the federal government to save us. So we need to take advantage of this, but we also need to look at what's happening in our state and in our local governments, and have the boldness and the foresight to continue investing in this infrastructure, kind of ride this wave, but continue to ride it. So there you go, a little passion for you in the morning. Maybe I've had too much coffee.
All right. Josh, ride that wave on in to finish this up.
I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, all of that was incredibly well said. I just would like to echo what you said, Thea, about there's probably legacy projects out there that could swallow up all of this funding. That's what this investment that we're at. And so if we want to actually change the face, the built environment of Central Ohio, we're going to need to be intentional and collaborative to be competitive with some of these projects that have enormous needs elsewhere across the nation. So this bill is only 5 years. It's a lot of money, but it's not enough. And so we need to be really intentional and coordinated in our efforts. The Link Us team here at CODA, we've been going out to the different municipalities with members of MORPC in the city of Columbus, and we're trying to encourage them to coordinate their capital improvement plans to try and find ways that these projects that they're already working on, the projects that they're going to need to do, how we can leverage those investments that they're making to make a more competitive grant application for when these dollars do become available.
Hey, Don, you have a question.
We recently saw a bridge collapse outside of Pittsburgh that was very frightening. Fortunately, I don't think there were any serious injuries. But the report that I watched said that the reason was that and Pennsylvania has some of the highest gasoline taxes in the United States, but the state legislators have been siphoning off for years, siphoning off gas tax money, which was supposed to be designated for infrastructure projects for other uses. Now, some of it was very noble. Some of it was to add to law enforcement units in communities across the state that didn't have their own law enforcement units. So they would hire more state police to handle law enforcement. But that's not what the gas tax dollars in the state of Pennsylvania were for. And as a result, you see these dire issues with bridges and roads. Do we have a serious problem in our state? Does anyone know? Do we have some projects, some bridges that need like immediate attention? And will some of this money be spent on those types of projects? Thanks.
Don't drive to Cincinnati, Don.
Yeah.
Or don't drive to Kentucky through Cincinnati, because that bridge, every time I go over it, I say my rosary.
Yeah, I just did it twice last week and was, oh my goodness, this is scary. Yeah, the Brent Spence Bridge, definitely in Cincinnati. We have a number of infrastructure projects around the horn here in Central Ohio, but I will say, I don't think we have a bridge that's in as dire straits as that particular bridge. Luckily, we're flatlanders, so we don't have as much of that like Pittsburgh even. But we do have significant concrete and asphalt in this region, and a growing population that, ours is incremental improvements that have to happen all across this Central Ohio region, as well as the rolling stock of CODA and making sure it's up to date and we're using the most important fuels. So I think each region has its own thing, but luckily we're not in a mountainous region where that is as big of an issue. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one, but as we kind of switch to the next one, I just want to close out this question and these concerns with talking about the realities of going after some of this funding. I mean, I do feel like on a national competitive level, there's going to be moments where they're going to say, hey, Columbus, I don't think you have as great a need as Cincinnati, for instance, on that bridge, right? And we're gonna still be putting together those proposals and raising up those projects. And my experience in that is that in Central Ohio, our collaborative process allows us to continue on and make things happen. And that's whether we get those federal grants or we bring ourselves together to make them happen. And that's what's really beautiful about the collaboration in our region. So I don't feel like loss is not bringing every single dollar back here, but loss is would really about us not making the generational improvements we need to make for this region. So whether we have a partner or not, we have to figure this out. And that's that bubble that Central Ohio is on as a growing region too. So whether we were going to get these federal investments or not, we were going to have to do these things in order to be able to compete. And so we need to go into this with that mindset that these are the things we got to do, and that this opportunity is added incentive to make it happen. So I'm really excited to continue that momentum, because this isn't about 5 years to me, right? This isn't about 10 years to me. This is about how we move forward with these investments and how we're going to continue that practice.
Hey, Thea, can I say something real quick?
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so I think, and I love to toot the horn of what Central Ohio has been able to do. We are champions of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about why people come to Columbus, right? They come to Columbus because they truly believe that there is space for them to live the American dream. And their ideas can take form and take flight in a way that may not happen elsewhere. And so that I feel in my heart that the collective power that we have through businesses, through all of the collaboratives, all of us coming together and creating those innovative plans that truly reach the needs of all of our residents across Central Ohio is going to make a difference. And so you are absolutely right, Thea, about, we are a shining light in this state in many respects in terms of where we're going, where our population is headed. But I don't want us to lose focus on the fact that we as a region have been innovators, and the things that we're able to do in this city, in this region, DC knows, the nation knows. I mean, like, there are folks who know, like, Columbus is going to bring some amazing ideas to fruition. And so I'm excited about that. But I'm even more impressed and more excited about the potential collaborative efforts that we're going to have to make these ideas real for the betterment of our citizens.
Yeah, lasting relationships that we can continue to build off of is exactly what we need to be working on. And you couldn't have said it any better. So thank you for that. It looks like we're getting a couple questions in here, and it kind of goes along with where we're taking this. And that is, one of the questions was about how businesses will benefit from these investments. In particular, how are people, if you're in a small business in Ohio, how will you get access to this? And so this is really, I would say, the core of it from my angle is that, if you're in the trades business, now is the time. You have plenty of time to go get registered to bid for projects in your public entity. And if you are a disadvantaged business owner or minority business owner, it is now time to go through the small business commission and make sure that you are certified to go and bid on these things. And if you have questions, meet with city officials, meet with local officials that are going to be receiving these dollars, and be able to learn more about those bidding opportunities. I know that you probably each have something to say on that, because businesses are probably coming to you like, how do I get in on this? How do I provide these services? So Lisa, Josh, Representative Charles, what do you think? How can we benefit small business through this bill?
So one of the things that we've been doing, and we've actually done this with our own money, courtesy of the graciousness of the city of Columbus, is they've given us money. One of the things that we do is we can train workers who are already in a business, as opposed to who they might hire, but helping, and our target were minority and women-owned businesses, helping them to train workers they've already got so that they're ready to take on new opportunities. So from a workforce side, that has been, and that continues to be our focus. We can also help them as they hire new employees who need to be skilled up. so that they can prove that they've got a skilled workforce to take on new contracts. But I mean, I know a lot about this from my previous life, but I want to let the other two speak because I'm trying to just stick in my workforce lane today. So.
Well, I will say this. What we're doing today is, I think, a start. There's a lot of information that's been shared already related to how to tap in and get started to have a bid that could likely be successful. Right now, the legislature is currently going through something similar in a way with the capital improvement dollars. And there are entities across the region, particularly in my district, that have submitted shovel-ready projects to my office, but also to the Columbus Partnership and other entities to talk about, how we could how they can tap into the dollars that we're going to be distributing from the legislature. And so I say that to say, like, there are, I guess you could say, processes that are already in place that you can use and then apply to this particular process. Collaboration has been a big key to the capital improvement dollar requests that we've received. And so take those existing innovations and opportunities you've already utilized and tap into the federal dollars, right? There's no different than how if you were tapping in for the capital improvement dollars. And so, I think all of these, equity inclusion was also a part of that as much as it's part of this. And so it's just, there's a lot of ways that you can take what you have already existing and create something that's going to be a competitive bid to draw down these dollars. And so my office is always available if you ever need assistance, of course, or you want direction and guidance. We're happy to help, and I'm excited to do that.
There's certainly going to be opportunities to do business with CODA, with the city of Columbus, with our other municipal partners around the city. But one of the other things that I'm tasked with at CODA is engaging with the business community to make sure that our existing system is working well for your needs, for the needs of your workforce. And also what we're trying to do through the Link Us initiative is improve the system as it currently exists, whether that be adding new lines, improving frequency, adding late night service, potentially even running some lines 24/7, which we don't do currently. We're also looking at building a number of mobility hubs so that people can more easily transition from modes, additional park and rides. One of the projects that we have underway is the Rickenbacker Area Mobility Center, which is going to be a mixed use facility down in the Rickenbacker area. It's a partnership. The capital budget from 2020 actually gave us a grant for a partnership with Columbus State for a training space, but we're also looking at incorporating elements of childcare, potentially healthcare, financial services, all to make that long bus ride down to the Rickenbacker area a little bit easier so that we have some of those supportive community services to help the businesses in that area. And we want to try to expand on that so that that's not our only one, that's just one of our first, and that we have more of those around the city. So if you see opportunities like that or ways in which CODA can work with your business to try to improve service, please feel free to reach out.
And Josh is your guy for that too. So I can't believe we're coming up on an hour here, and I haven't heard one person utter the word Intel or Hyperion. So I guess by requirement, I'm going to do that. No, just kidding. But I think that is when people are talking about these new economic development opportunities, they're coming to Central Ohio. I just think about the feeling of hope, an opportunity for our workers, but so much more. And as we're transitioning over to the audience questions, if you each want to kind of share your feelings today about where we're at and where we're going.
You talked about Intel. I think that's going to be, again, I talked about it, right? We are at the center of innovation here in this region. And there is nothing, and I mean nothing, that we can't do when we do it together. And part of what I believe is going to occur, and you kind of talked about it, is that innovation is going to continue to happen even if we don't get any dollar from the infrastructure bill, right? And part of that is because of the fact that we're moving in the direction of addressing rail, addressing connectivity and affordability on transportation or public transit, working on broadband access. We're doing that stuff already. Again, we passed a bill in the State House that was huge, and a huge investment into our broadband access. And so what I'll say to you is I'm excited about the future of our region, because we have people at the helm across all industries who are truly thinking about what does Columbus and Franklin County and Central Ohio look 25 years from now? And where do we want to leave it, right? We all have a minute and finite time on this earth. And my hope, and at least is for me, is that I'm leaving it much better than how I found it. And so I feel like this is a microcosm of that reality, that Central Ohio is a beacon for innovation, and we're on the precipice of really moving that innovation forward. Now, whether it's tapping into our federal resources, state resources, local work that's happening across in a collaborative space across the region, whatever it takes to get to that end of a better Central Ohio or a better Columbus, I think we're on the steps forward of that. And based upon a lot of the investment that we've seen in Columbus and in Central Ohio, I think other people have recognized that too.
Well, Anthony Rosati, I saw your question, and you know what, that would be another hour panel. But I'm happy to sit down and talk with you about it. There's definitely, just to quickly answer his question, is even without Intel or Hyperion, there are not enough people in Central Ohio, even if everybody who can work does work, to fill all the jobs that we have. And we can encourage people to have more children so that by 2050 there'd be more people, I guess. But we also have to look at in-migration. We got to look at immigrant policies that allow other people to come here to work. So there's a lot to unpack there. But to answer your question, Thea, one of the things I do want to get out there is the thing I love about, I grew up in Cleveland, east of Cleveland, and Columbus is a relatively young metro area, really, in Ohio for sure. And even if you look across the nation, definitely in the Midwest. And we have the opportunity, we actually have some of the wealth to be able to make proactive investments that will keep us from making the same development mistakes that Cleveland and Cincinnati have made in the past. Now, they're great places. I'd love to be there. But they're having to go back and fix mistakes or relook at what they did. Columbus is not, we're headed that way if we don't make proactive investments. But if we make good use of this money, if we remember that our number one infrastructure are the people who live here, and we make those investments and care, we have the ability to avoid those mistakes and make all the right choices going forward. Be thoughtful about the investments we're making now. But the thing is that I know we talk about the Columbus way, and some people say, yeah, it's a really great thing. Some people say, oh, I don't know what the Columbus way is. I don't feel part of it, but it is a thing, and we all need to band together. And that's what gives me hope for Central Ohio, that, we're going to get to 2050, and I won't be working then, but Representative Gerald, you'll probably still be, and hopefully we'll all be looking at a place where every person can reach their full potential and nobody has been left behind in all of this investment. And that's what, gives me a lot of hope and makes me really excited, and why I stay here and don't move back to the lake.
Hey, Josh, after you answer this question, I have a question that came in from the audience as well. So I'll let you tell us about your feeling about where we're at, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, that was all very well said. the future of Central Ohio is very bright. Growth is good. And with it, though, there's going to be some pain points. It comes with a lot of opportunities, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. So, being the public transportation person, it's not going to be the answer for everybody everywhere, but we can kind of be a safety relief valve. And, as we've been talking to our peer cities and learning what they did, the best practices for how to implement high capacity transit, we've learned that they were really reacting to the growth that they were seeing, the Austins, the Nashvilles, the Charlottes of the world. And we're a little bit ahead of them on our growth trajectory from when we've started having this conversation. And so if we do things right, if we act intentionally, with our everything from our affordable housing policy, the zoning code update that the city's going through is going to be a really huge opportunity to make sure that our land use is efficient, that it encourages economic sustainability. We can't sprawl forever because linear infrastructure takes an awful lot of money. It's part of the reason why we've had such deficiencies in infrastructure investment over the years. So we got to grow smarter, and this is definitely an opportunity to do so.
And I had one other question. Thank you, Josh, from someone in the crowd here. And it's, does CODA need to become a regional transit entity versus just for Columbus and Franklin County for the transportation upgrades included in passenger rail and mass transit? And I know we've been talking quite a bit about some of the ways we can make those broader systems happen, and I'll allow you to kind of share what some of the things we're looking at.
Yeah, so we're a regional transit authority under a section of the Ohio Revised Code. We have Franklin County is the primary service area, but we also do provide service to portions of Delaware County because Dublin and Westerville are both members of the agreement that established CODA. Certainly in the future, as Central Ohio grows, we'll be looking at opportunities. What does that look like to maybe include outlying regions into our service area? But one of the things that we've also been doing with the help of Ohio Department of Transportation and the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, we've been working on a county connections playbook. How can we improve those cross-county trips, work with Delaware, Licking, Pickaway, Fairfield, their transit agencies to do everything from like shared services, like is there back house administrative staff that we could share? Is there technology that we could potentially share? How do we improve those connections? And so that's what we're looking toward in the short run. But all of those options are on the table and currently being explored.
Thea, can I say something real quick?
Of course.
So one of the things, and I was percolating on this idea. We have 75 folks on this call, and I've seen it from the, if you will, from the macro level. And maybe it's a call to action for folks on the call. It's like, we have to invest in young people. We have in this state, we are bleeding young people, and our workforce is getting incredibly older as every year passes, and young people are leaving for other states. Now, it could be the weather. Some people don't like the cold, I get it. And some, it could be our policies, which is something that we got to change at a system level. And some could very well be the opportunities and what they're given once they are looking at the job prospects and asking themselves, where do I want to go? And so I think one of the call to actions that we just have to think about is, how do we make our workforce, how do we connect our workforce to the young people that are leaving our institutions? How are we tackling the diversity of our workforce, particularly our workforce from the Somali community, from the Nepali, Ethiopian, I mean, what have you, across cultural perspectives? And then I think somebody mentioned in the chat, the skilling of those who are in positions. They can see themselves a lot higher, see themselves doing a lot more, but there may not be opportunities, or there may be quite literally a ceiling over them, right? And so it's going to take all of us to really think strategically about the workforce issue in our state, because it is something that we're going to get hit. We're going to hit a wall in a real way, if we don't begin to truly address it. I think tangential to that is housing affordability in this state. And because I feel like infrastructure for housing is just as important as our bridges, because if people don't have nowhere to live, they're not staying, they're going somewhere else. And so so those are two issues that I just wanted to touch on that we have. Again, we're the beacon of innovation in this state that we can really put our teeth into and really begin to think about how do we truly build a job market that reaches young people and a housing market that that includes everyone. So.
Well, thank you, Representative. And that was a great way for us to final things out, kind of get last statements here. But Representative, I heard a call to action to connect our workforce to young, diverse Central Ohioans. That couldn't be more direct if I didn't try. I know the housing issue is definitely a piece of that, but this is the cornerstone. Those young people, they will help us make that connection. And I think as we, like, for instance, in my practice, it's about drawing them into the planning process. So they're planning and invested in the community they will live in the future. So I think we all share that. I guess I'm ready to turn it back over to the chamber team. If there's anything else I need to do to finish up this session. No, Des or okay.
Sorry about that. I was
No, that's all right.
doing the young because I had a really good question, so I was going to have him reach out to me directly.
Okay.
But this, I'll go off script just a little bit, but this discussion was amazing. And I may say that about every panel discussion I'm a part of, but this one was truly special. The information that the panelists provided, you as a moderator, controlling the discussion and moderating the discussion, this was very, very informative. And I want to thank you all for your time and your knowledge and your perspectives and insights on this funding coming to the state of Ohio. But getting back on script, thank you to our moderator again and panelists for their knowledge and participation in this morning's Government Spotlight program. If you enjoyed today's program and would like to revisit this conversation at a later date, please be sure to keep an eye out on your email. You should receive a link to the recorded program within the next 24 hours. On behalf of the Columbus Chamber, we want to thank you for supporting our Government Spotlight series. We look forward to providing relevant and insightful programming for you in the future. Please be sure to visit the Chamber's website at columbus.org/events for more events like this one. We hope to see you all again soon. Again, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day and safe weekend.